Hello, ladies. Hello, everyone. Hello, Facebook. We're going to give it a few more minutes so that we have a few more people join us. Looks like we have one viewer on right now. How's everyone doing today? You ladies look lovely. Lovely. Awesome. And those of you who are just joining, I would like to welcome each of you to our live discussion, Let's Talk Bullying. We will get started shortly. All right. And if you are watching us today, I just want to say that you notice that all of the ladies here on the panel, we are representing orange. We all have on the color orange, and orange is a bullying prevention color. It shows that we are united. So definitely, if you got some orange hearts, if you can send us some orange hearts in the chat, let us know you're there. Let us know you're supporting the cause, please. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this month is National Bullying Prevention Month. We are in the month of October. So this conversation is all going to be about bullying. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I would like to say good evening and thank you for joining our panel discussion today. We are Manage Emotions, Avoid Negativity, affectionately known as Mean Girls Empowerment. We're a 501c3 organization serving the greater Chicagoland area. Our organization aims to prevent bullying, and we teach girls how to identify bullying behaviors. We strive to empower young ladies to live a positive, healthy lifestyle and achieve their personal best. Mean Girls Empowerment is the only Chicago-based bullying prevention program developed to help tackle bullying by educating girls. Our mission is to empower young ladies to avoid negativity, build self-confidence, and pursue their goals through perseverance, courage, and creativity. My name is Shatina Edwards, and I am the CEO and founder of Mean Girls Empowerment. I would like to welcome each of you, as well as our panelists, to our live discussion, Let's Talk Bullying. Again, if you are just joining this discussion, October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and we would like to bring awareness to this topic. Each of our panelists bring a unique perspective to the topic. I would like to start by introducing Felicia Houston. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor. She's also a mental health consultant. Thank you, Felicia, for joining us today. Next, I'll introduce Renita Streeter. Renita Streeter is a principal working for the Joliet School District. Thank you, Renita, for your opportunity. Thank you for being here with us today. We also have Miss Trinity Dobby. Trinity is the founder of T3 Life Coaching for Teens. She also serves as the Director of Mentorship at Mean Girls Empowerment. Thanks for being here, Trinity. And Dejanice Turner, she's a director as well, and she works with the Foster Care Children Program. Ladies, I want to say thank you all again so much for accepting the invitation, for being with us today. You guys all have unique backgrounds, and I want to really bring light to this discussion. Let's talk bullying. So over the past couple of years, I have been doing research as it relates to bullying, and more recently looking into bullying as being a major health concern. So the data that I found was that statistics that have been compiled by the National Center of Education states that over 3.2 million students are victims of bullying each year. And nationally, 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. And this also comes from the National Center of Education. Bullying is an event that is associated with significant health issues. And research reveals that those who are bullied are more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and suicide-related behaviors than children who are not bullied, in which these mental health concerns continue into adulthood. I'm a witness because I have experienced being bullied as a child. Studies also shown that children who bully others are more likely to engage into violence later in their life and experience substance abuse problems as an adult. I want to start off by asking each of you, how do you define bullying? And we can start with Renita.
All right. Good evening, Shatina. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on this platform with this wonderful, powerful, and amazing women that I share this panel with tonight. I would like to read to you the definition of bullying that we use in my school district. So, this is the definition that we utilize. Bullying means any severe or pervasive physical or verbal act or conduct, including communications made in writing or electronically, directed toward a student that has or can be reasonably predicted to have the effect of one or more of the following. It places the student in reasonable fear of harm to the student's personal property, causing a substantially detrimental effect on the student's physical or mental health, substantially interfering with the student's academic performance, and substantially interfering with the student's ability to participate in or benefit from the services, activities, or privileges provided by the school. That is the definition that we utilize as bullying within my school district.
Thank you so much, Renita, for sharing that. That is very thorough. You pretty much covered it all, but I want to just go ahead and ask the other ladies, like, how do you all define bullying? I know that Trinity, you work in a different profession, and also you work closely with our girls as well. So if you can provide insight as well.
For me, with the work that I do, I work with youth every day, victims of abuse and witness to abuse. And you are right, Shatina, as you mentioned earlier in a previous conversation, that bullying does start at home. But for me, bullying is just a misuse of power, no matter if it's physical, mental, emotional. It is the misuse of power and control you have over someone. And Renita, you are absolutely right. Bullying does impact a person's mental and emotional health. It affects their academics and even in work. I've seen bullying in workplaces, and it is a misuse of power, an inappropriate use of power.
Wow, I like that. I like that definition. Miss Dejanice, if you can provide feedback.
Well, I think everybody has covered it already. But honestly, I'm thinking the same thing. When the question was posed, I absolutely was feeling like it was a big piece of power and control. And so when I think about kids and bullying, it generally is the kid who is needing to have some level of control, kind of taking that from somebody who is less than, or what they perceive as less than, in some type of capacity.
I like that. I like that. And Miss Felicia, I am excited to hear what you have to say.
I think Renita covered it already, but okay, I'll just add my 2 cents. Okay, I think the only thing that I would add is that I usually look at it as unwanted aggressive behavior, and then the imbalance of power, like everyone else has said, because bullies tend to use their power to control and harm others, and it could be physical power, or it could also be accessing embarrassing facts or information about other children. So it's just misuse of power, the imbalance of power. So that's the only thing I would add. But Renita, I like that definition. You should send that to some of the other schools.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for providing insights. So now that we understand what bullying is, we understand everyone has a different definition or perspective of bullying, but we have the physical bullying, you have the verbal bullying, there's all sorts of type of bullying. So we do understand that. I want to know, at what point does conflict between students become bullying? Would anybody be willing to dive into that one for me?
I'll take the bait. I'll dive right on in. Conflict between students, of course, it happens every single day throughout the entire day of a school year. So that's always going on. But when it transitions just from conflict to bullying is a very fine line. And the one thing that I can say that I know I'm probably going ahead of myself is that when we're trying to decipher what is bullying and what is conflict, what is aggressiveness, what is a horse playing, all of those things is a very fine line. The most important thing is to listen to your students, listen to your children. Oftentimes we blow the kids off and we're not listening to what they're saying. We're not hearing their heart, their what they're exclaiming, what they're expressing as to what they are experiencing. Oftentimes they don't even know that it is bullying, or sometimes they don't even know that it is just a conflict, and we have to help them differentiate the two. We also have to help parents understand what the difference is, because parents do not know the differences between what they consider to be picking on my child versus bullying versus just a conflict. So it really is a very delicate dynamic where you have to listen to the children and really dissect and investigate this process. It is not an easy task to designate that this particular situation is bullying, and every situation is not bullying. One thing I can say is that typically it's a repeated offense. And so if it is a situation where a child is coming saying this person was picking on me and that was the first and only time that has occurred, then that would most likely not be deemed as bullying. But oftentimes we have had parents call that this child is bullying my child, this person is bullying my child, and it only happened that one time. The child confirmed it only happened that one time. The aggressor confirmed it only happened that one time. That's not bullying. That's whatever physical act or verbal act of aggression that occurred. And then we need to, squash that right then and there and figure out how to work through that. So there are so many dynamics that come into play with trying to figure out if it's bullying, but most importantly, we have to listen to our children to really grasp the situation.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was saying, Renita, thank you so much, because I love what you said, because you were actually jumping into my next question when I was going to ask, what are some misconceptions of bullying? And I love exactly what you said as it relates to it being a repeated behavior versus something that's happening one time and we can resolve this, the conflict. Anyone else want to add feedback or talk about some other misconceptions of bullying that you may be aware of?
Yeah, I think a big misconception is that it only happens to children. Um, as a woman of color, I've experienced bullying in university level, in my master's program, and even at work. And I think sometimes, like Renita said, oh, it's just conflict, when in actuality it is bullying. If it's repetitive, progressive, and it gets more negative and aggressive in tone, in interaction, that is absolutely bullying. So I'd say the biggest misconception that I've identified in conversation is that people think adults can't be bullied or pushed into a situation where we are like, is this normal conflict, or is this individual actually targeting and bullying me for whatever reason? So
That is good. That is good.
That is good. That is good. I think the only thing that well, there's two things that I would add. I think there's a big misconception that a lot of parents seem to think that it's a rites of passage. Like, we went through it, so you'll be okay. I made it, you'll make it. And I'm like, no, I didn't go through that. So I don't know what you're talking about. And if we did go through it, it wasn't normal then and it's not normal now. And then one time I was speaking to a group of parents, and this one grandmother said to me, these kids just weak. They just need to be stronger. And I was like, what does that have to do with bullying? Like, I'm confused. But some of the old school parents seem to think that these kids are weak and that we were so much stronger because we were able to, I guess, to endure more pain, more abuse. And I think those are just some misconceptions that it's and that kids need to be able to just handle it. Like, these kids could just handle it. I'm gonna let them handle it and they'll be okay. And it's like, no, they won't be okay. The parents have to step up and get involved. So,
but
That's
isn't
a,
that all part of the cycle that perpetuates it? Like you just said, Felicia, You have a lot of old school parents and grandparents that are like, oh, these kids are weak. They need to have tough skin, have thicker skin. When I was little, I was beat up and bullied, and I'm fine. Look at me. And they don't realize they are passing on generational trauma and experiences. So when you do have a child, like Renita said, that's coming to you, your interpretation is they're weak. Let me maybe whoop them or chastise them into being stronger, when in reality it is actually bullying, which is abuse. So thank you for pointing that out, Felicia. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback off of that because I think that is the biggest thing. I have conversations with adults on a regular basis, and they think that it's normal, and understanding the difference between like a kid just picking at somebody versus what bullying is, and that whole mentality that, oh, this is just normal kid behavior, it'll surpass, versus understanding that bullying becomes this extra layer of what normal picking at a kid is. So I always kind of use this commercial that I've seen years ago where the little kid's like, I'm not touching you. And they're like this close to the person. And it's like, it's annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. Versus if somebody's punching me every day or somebody's talking about my hair every single day, there's only so much I can take, especially as a kid.
I like that. I like that. It looks like we have a comment in the chat. It says so many times it's more than listening. Often out of fear, the one being bullied will not speak out. Many out of fear from the bully. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to read that. But I have to agree with that person's statement. Reason being is I was bullied, and it started with me not speaking out, honestly. And then having some go-to people to say, hey, this is happening to me. I don't know what to do. I was getting my lunch money taken. I got gum in my hair. So it's kind of like, it was a fear growing up. But I think we have to listen, one, what Renita said, and we have to be open and be able to look for those signs from our children as well. Because I'm sure that there's signs of low self-esteem, or there's signs of that child wanting to be alone, or there's signs of that child not fit in, or don't want to have friends, or want to stay in their room all day, things like that. So you have to pay attention to those signs. If you don't see that your child is engaging, or you don't see like any social skills from your child, you may want to consider even talking to them about bullying. I am not the panel expert, but I just wanted to give that feedback. Felicia, I have a question for you, because I've been following you for a long time. And I know that you are an expert as it relates to mental health. And so my question was, how does bullying impact students' health, mentally and emotionally? And what are the short-term and long-term effects of bullying? If you can break that down for us.
Okay, so I first of all, I'm employed by U Chicago Medicine at Ingalls, so I'm in the Department of Psychiatry. So the kids come to us through the emergency room, and so when kids are coming through the emergency room for treatment, it is affecting them physically, emotionally, and mentally. So they have physical injuries a lot of times. They have social problems. It affects their self-esteem, and a lot of times, like you said before, they usually present with depression, anxiety, or suicidal ideations, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's been suicide attempts. And then there's one case that I will never forget, and I've been in this field for 20 years, of this 10-year-old girl who took her life due to bullying. And she left a note and said the pressure of everything. She had all A's, but she said the pressure from her parents to excel, and she was going to get a B, but she just could not face them, and she took her life. And the kids teasing her because she had a B, and she was in a school that you don't get B's in this school. That's not tolerated. So it affects you in all different areas. And I think we forget about the bully, when we talk about the person being bullied, but then think about how it affects the bully. And one time I was doing a presentation at school, Renita, and they asked me to do the bullying thing, and I did it. But when I talked to the kids, let me tell you what the kids said. The kids said, I'm getting bullied by the teacher and the principal at my school. So yeah, it starts at home, but it's also happening in the school. So we have, I think everybody has to be trained about bullying, because it's not just at home, it's as a lot of kids are saying it's happening at school as well. And a lot of teachers are saying they're bullied at school as well. So
that is good. Come on, bring the cover off of this.
So good. I'm so sorry, Shatina. I'm talking all over you. You the moderator. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
I could not wait to get to this topic, but I just wanted to let it come out naturally, organically, and it did. But yes, unfortunately, it happens. It does happen where the students and the parents are letting us know that they feel like their child is being attacked by a staff member, whether it is the teacher or a paraprofessional, a supervisor, a coach. Or, unfortunately, even if it is the administration, not this administrator, but somebody else. But I can say that right, not here, but it does happen. And then, but that brings us back to the point what you just said, Felicia, about the people who are the bullies. Those are the ones that we also need to provide those services to as well. Because why are they bullying? Because typically they were in a very similar situation themselves, so they turn it around and do it to someone else. Or it could be something totally different, but most likely that's typically what I have seen on my end. And so then how then do we protect? How then do we help a baby, a child who now feels unsafe being in the classroom that they're supposed to feel safe in every day? Do we play musical chairs and change the child's classroom every time something like that happens? Do we have to fire a whole bunch of teachers? That's not what we want to do for the child or for the educators. And so we really have to come in and do a whole lot of work. It's a lot of equity work that we have to do in order to work with our children, our parents, the community, and the staff to help them to be able to see. Because you can't just walk in a teacher's classroom and say, I hear you bullying the kids, because they'll be totally defensive and you can't get any work done. It's not going to work like that. Nor can you get the child to come out and say, yes, Miss Street has been bullying me. It's a very fine line to be able to work with our children. To be able to do that. But that number one thing that we work on, that I can say in my district and in my building, is we work on having emotionally safe classroom environments, emotionally safe building environments. I can say that this school year I've had the fewest number of classroom behavioral infractions in I don't know how many years. And I feel like that is because we have been focusing so much on making certain that our students feel emotionally safe. That doesn't mean that things don't happen. They do, but they often happen in the non-structured settings versus in the classroom setting. So now we have to transition what we're doing in the classroom out into the cafeteria, the lunchroom, recess, and things like that. But we're getting there. But it really, really focuses on making certain that our teachers, our staff, our paraprofessionals know what it means to keep our students emotionally safe, not just physically safe in a building.
That's good. Renita, I have to ask, is there any training for like teachers as it relates to bullying?
I have never participated in a training specifically for bullying. As a teacher, as an administrator, as a principal, I have to admit, I have not participated in that training. Have I participated in a training that includes some of the tenets of bullying, that talks about its effects? Yes, but not a one-on-one type of, not a one-on-one, but not a whole group training specifically on bullying. That is something that we would definitely need to have done, not only for my district, but probably a whole lot of other districts in the school district.
Renita, I just wanted to kind of piggyback to what you were saying about making sure that your staff members were knowledgeable of, the emotional tenets of being in the classroom setting, because I think that a lot of times that's where adults struggle. You figure, I'm the adult, I get to make the decision, and that's just what it is. And that goes back to that power and control piece that we talked about at the beginning, not recognizing that kids are still people, right? They still have feelings. They still have a bad day. They still have all of these other things. And I think what a lot of adults who don't consider the social emotional piece don't put into perspective is that oftentimes kids are also taking on not just their stuff, but your stuff as the adults, right? So if at home is a mess, then I'm bringing that into school with me. I'm bringing that into these other spaces with me. And that poses to be very difficult. And if I don't feel like I have a safe space, then I lash out, right? And then I become the bully or I become the aggressor. And it just becomes this cycle of things. So it's super important for the adults to understand how they play the parts in that too, and how easy it can be for us as adults to be bullies to kids, even when we're not trying to be.
That's good. That's good, Dejanice.
I wanted to add, Renita, you made a great point about making sure that children or even adults are not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. I think sometimes the piece that is missed, that we can create all the barriers and safety and education, but we also have to have positive outcomes. I've seen situations where there's all the safety, you can report it, but nobody handles the situation appropriately. It's kind of like, Dejanice said, or Renita, let's just play musical chairs and we're not going to fix the problem. We're just going to move little Trinity over here away from, little Renita. So, okay, maybe she's not being bullied in class, but now I'm going to catch you in the hallway or at lunch. I've found that you can address all the safety issues, but we absolutely need to focus on fixing the issue as well and making sure that the bully and the bully have a positive outcome and the supportive services that they need.
I like it. I like it all, ladies. You guys are definitely bringing great perspectives to this conversation. Now, I want to kind of focus on the parents. What can parents do to help prevent bullying? I get a lot of parents ask me this all the time. I do. And we have our strategies, we have our techniques in place, but I want to hear from you guys. What can parents do to help prevent bullying?
In my experience, I think parents need to pay attention. I think often more than not, there are always nonverbal cues to some form of abuse, bullying, trauma, or negative experience. And I know some parents that I work with, they're like, oh, I didn't know that it was happening. But you told me that your child was, eager to learn, big personality, and all of a sudden, your child has retreated to being less engaged, not wanting to go to school, not wanting to go to after school programs. And we get, as parents and adults, we get so caught up in our lives that we kind of miss these silent moments that our children or children that we work with give us to kind of say, hey, little Trinity is usually more around, excited, and her personality is big. For about a week, she's been really reserved into herself and kind of shut off. Let me, as the adult, whether the parent or the teacher, take just a few seconds to say, hey, Trinity, I'm noticing, you're a little different this week. Can we talk about it? And again, in my experience in the work that I do, almost always there's a nonverbal factor that is largely telling as it relates to some form of bullying or abuse. So I'd say really listen with your eyes and hear what you don't hear and see what might be kind of almost like hidden.
That's good, Trinity. Very good. I think the only thing that I would add to that, when you first asked the question, I was just thinking for parents to be able to recognize the warning signs. And it's it's different for each child, but like I love the little Trinity thing. If little Trinity, is all bubbly and all of a sudden they're changing, if the child was eager to go to school and now they're coming up with excuses as far as, now I don't want to go to school, I'm sick, my stomach hurt, my head hurt, you take them to the doctor, nothing is going on. Paying attention to physical changes. Have they changed the way they're dressing? Have they recently changed their hair? It's probably because kids are bullying them about those things. What else? Any physical signs? Are they having a lot of unexplained injuries? Or like Shatina, when you were talking about taking money, that their kids were taking money. I think for parents who their child is the bully, where's your child getting that money from? And why are you not paying? Now, how is your child coming home with new Jordans and new Nikes that you didn't buy? So paying attention to, things that, financial, or if they having extra money and things of that sort, paying attention, what did you eat for lunch? And they're like, oh, I didn't eat nothing. Why are you not eating lunch? Paying attention, like Trinity said, with, when they're not saying anything, looking for the nonverbals. So
I think that poses a great point too. I when you were saying like paying attention, but making sure to follow up with the paying attention by asking those questions. I was that kid who my mother asked 1,020 questions and it got on my nerves. But today I comprehend why she was so nosy and why she wanted to know what every single day at school looked like, right? Because those were important things. And so not just looking to see like, okay, they might have changed, but taking the time to actually have a conversation with your kid and not accepting, oh, everything is fine or nothing happened. Today I met a kid for the first time and her answer to me was, I just don't care. I just don't. And she gave me attitude as she was saying it. So I'm like, but you got to care about something. Like everything can't be, I don't care, right? So being not just taking their one word answers because they're kids and they don't want to be bothered with you as okay. Listen and actually take the time to communicate thoroughly with them.
And if I could add my last little 2 cents, that would be to follow up with the people who your children are with. So if that is your child's teacher, if you have a gut instinct that tells you something is wrong, just call the school. Sometimes the secretary knows stuff that the teacher doesn't even know. You just never know. The lunchroom supervisor, literally, I had a lunchroom supervisor come and tell me just the other day, take a look at this little girl. She just seems to be a little withdrawn. I talked to the teacher. The teacher hasn't noticed a thing because nothing was happening in the classroom. It was happening during lunch and recess. The lunchroom supervisor noticed it. So those are things that you're able to follow up on as soon as you notice something. Even like just like Dejanice said, you know, we kids, boys and girls are like, yeah, mama just being mama, daddy being daddy, grandma being grandma, and you just blow them off. If the child is saying I don't care and they're saying it with an attitude, oftentimes they care. They care very much. They've just become programmed as shutting down because they think that's the way to deal with it. They think they'll shut it off to the world, but there's turmoil going on the inside. They don't know how to deal with it. So they think that's the best way to do it. But then once we start getting other people involved, that really does give the child some force to be able to move forward with. Now it's a momentum behind it. They have some support. There's something that's happening here. It's not just me thinking, it's not just my mama being this, but not my teacher just doing little check-ins with me, trying to see if I'm okay in the morning and seeing, do I need to, do I want to walk in the front of the line with her? Or do I want to go sit in Miss Streeter's office a little bit? Do I want to go play with little Trinity? Whatever those little things are, those are just the next steps that can happen after the parents have begun to observe these things with their children.
I love it, ladies. Janai Smith put in the chat, she said, parents have to have a relationship with their children. I have to agree with her on that one. Like, you can't be too busy that you can't even talk to your child. So that is really, really good. That's deep right there. And a relationship, not a friendship. That's what we're talking about. I wanted to kind of also bring this out too. So we know that there's this, and it's not new, but for my generation, we didn't have all of the social media. We didn't have, I think we had MySpace when I first got to college, and then actually started when I was in college as well. And it was only for college students. But now we have all of these social media platforms now. So it's this new wave of bullying, is what we call cyber bullying. Okay. And I've noticed that cyber bullying is on a whole nother level right now. You ain't even got to be physically touched. It's like everybody has to have this, this image. We all want this image about ourselves. So, people are very open to be very disrespectful on social media. They're open to put folks' business out there on social media. And then, our babies are experiencing this because they're actually on some of these social media platforms. And we had a situation in Mean Girls, and where it was a young girl that was, I think she was 9 at the time, on a social media platform. And some platform that she was on, one of her followers told her to kill herself. And so mom, a month later, went back through the phone and was like, what is this? And she never shared it with her mom. And so that's scares me because I have, but I think that with the cyberbullying and all that we have going on and what the children are exposed to, like we really need to kind of peel the banana on this one. So how do you start the conversation about cyberbullying with your child?
In my experience, I think social media can be as great of a use as it is as bad of a use. But with the kids I mentor and work with, for me, I break the ice in identifying what they like. And from there, they usually, oh, I find this on TikTok or Facebook or Tumblr, or Twitter, whatever. And from there, I identify like, what are you doing on these social media sites? Who are you interacting with? I work with human trafficking population. And I'm sure all of you ladies know it's a lot of bullying and backdoor stuff going on social media there. So I'm the type of individual I'm identifying, hey, what do you like? And what social sites are you using? And what does that look like for you? How long are you on social media? Who are you interacting with? What content are you posting? What content are you taking in? And I found you got a group of kids that are just, normal. They're looking at kid appropriate and friendly things. And then you have these other children that end up in situations where they're not telling their mom that someone might have said, kill yourself. They're not telling a trusted peer or adult that someone has introduced them to videos that are violent in content or showing, inappropriate images. So I know for me, I try to have a conversation and at least build rapport. And I've found that a lot of children are willing to communicate with me about their social media use, and it'll just kind of flow. I've had children, oh, I love TikTok, but I stopped using it. And this happened, this is a personal story with my niece. She's 10 going on 30. She's so smart, but she's 10. And she used to post TikToks almost every day during COVID. And then it just stopped. So I asked her one day, I said, what's going on? You usually do your TikTok, your dances, your little how-to videos. And she was like, oh, nothing. I went through the comments on one of her videos and I saw a very slanderous comment from a peer at her school. And I asked her about it. And I said, why didn't you say anything? She said, I didn't want to be exposed further. I didn't want the person to share and send. And it was a hurtful situation, but I realized what was once fun for her turned into a really bad situation. And she got bullied and threatened to, if you tell, I'm going to make up rumors about you. But she was able to trust me because I built rapport with her and I bonded with her with something that she liked, the social media setting that she liked us. So I think just speaking to the kids, identifying what they use it for, what they like it for, and checking in with them often and seeing what they're doing, who they're talking to, and what they're exploring.
Now, Dejanice, you hosted a workshop for Mean Girls that talked about media usage. It was like 101. Can you give a little bit of insight as to how do you have the conversation about cyberbullying with your child?
So, and it's so funny. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Is I did host these different one-on-one groups about social media, and what I found in no matter which setting I was in hosting the group is that kids will tell you all their business. They do not hold secrets. You just got to ask the right way, right? And so it is always. I'm very, very clear about you meet them where they are. So, as Trinity said, I just ask you what you use. And it's funny to a lot of kids because I normally start off that conversation saying when I was your age, there was no such thing as social media. And so then they think I'm old and they just go from there. So it's easier to kind of just go and I ask the questions about what type of platforms they use. And then they enlightened me on certain platforms because I didn't know what TikTok was until last year. And I still ain't really all the way there with TikTok. It's too much for me. But, you meet them where they are and they will divulge anything to you at that point. And being mindful of how you're talking to them about what cyberbullying is. I think we have to educate kids on what to look for that's considered cyberbullying. Those messages that Trinity's niece got, if she didn't know that was considered bullying and it was just like, oh, this person just a hater, right? Then if that looks a little different and the undertone in it could look different. So we have to explain to them what it is. I'm really clear to every kid I come across with social media about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate to post on there. I talk to kids now about Facebook jail. Like, it's a real thing. You get kicked off, and this is what happens. So, being transparent with kids, I think, is super important. And I think that a lot of adults feel like you can't be transparent with kids, but you absolutely can be.
Those were some great points. I think what I would add is for parents. So, Renita, I have done a lot of cyberbullying trainings at schools. And what's interesting is that the people in the room were the professionals and they didn't know nothing. I mean, nothing. I was like, what is this? I don't know. What is this? I don't know. We were talking about sexting and we had codes and stuff. They were like, I don't know what language is that, Felicia? I was like, this is the language that the kids are speaking. We have to know this language as parents, otherwise we can't decipher it. So I would just say, as parents, that you know about the social media sites, or you get on them, and so you can see what your child is doing, so you can meet them where they're at. But a lot of times, a lot of parents like, I don't do that. I'm not on social media. I'm like, but your child is. So you need to be there too. So I think that's the only thing that I would add, is that parents need to be educated as far as the platform. And then there's different monitoring systems that you can have to monitor what your child can have access to on social media. So there is something you can do, to kind of monitor that.
But
can I just add?
I'm sorry.
No,
I was just gonna say, can I just add that like, utilize your village too, right?
Mm-hmm.
For parents who don't use social media at all, like, I'm the oldest of my siblings and my cousins and stuff like that. So when my family wasn't on social media, it was me that goes and scams everybody's social media pages. They don't like it, they block me, they do all types of stuff, but they know that I'm there. So utilize your village as well. Don't think that you as a parent have to man it all, because that's just humanly impossible as well.
That's good.
I'm sorry, Shatina, can I just add one more thing? And that is, cyberbullying doesn't always happen on social media platforms. If you all remember, while we were growing up, I'm aging myself right here, our bullying, it wasn't cyber, it was a shared notebook. It was the bathroom stall. It was the locker room wall. That was our bullying. That's what we did. When Renita is a whatever, all over. You walk in, everybody crying and making fun of you because your name is all over the whatever. But that was what we did when we were younger. So now they're taking it to a different level. But it's not always on social media platforms. So without going into the names of them, because I don't want to get in trouble, but there are messaging apps that our students are using. Most of them are just communicating with each other. And as they're communicating with each other, they're talking about your mama, you stink, I didn't like your hair, your shoes, whatever it is. And they get real down and dirty on there. So as they're doing that, they're picking each other apart. They're ganging up on each other. And that's happening on multiple apps that are not necessarily social media platforms. And please, I also want for the parents to know that includes chats, even when they're on Zoom, even when they are on Google Classroom, even then when they are on Seesaw, it happens. And so when we just had a situation yesterday in school where there were some kids, they were on Zoom, and so they were in the chat. And so the Zoom feature sends us emails to let us know when students are saying things that are inappropriate. So then it sent it directly to myself or my assistant principal. It tells you who said what time, such and so and so. And within 20 minutes, we had them in my office talking about, so tell me about this conversation you had about such and so on. So they just sitting there like, what, huh? Like, yeah, I know about that conversation. Tell me about it. What happened? So, those types of things happen. All the time. And it's like I said, it's not always what parents may think. It could be things that are that they have access to all the time, even in a setting such as school platforms.
Renita, that is so good. Wait, you just brought me back, because yes, the bathroom stall. We had pagers, beepers back then. So it was, I get it. So, but I think that's so good. I had a question for you, Renita, that I wanted to ask you as it relates to social media. And so me girls, we have a variety of ages of girls. So we have girls that are within elementary, and we also have high school girls. So there's parents that approve their high school students to be on social media. I know for me, I had guardianship over my nephew. I've had him since he was like 10 years old. Me and my husband was like, you cannot get on any social media sites until you're 16. Okay. So we made him wait until he was 16. And so at that point, we were still monitoring his social media. You couldn't get on certain things. And my husband, he was more an FBI agent than I was. But I wanted to know, like, for the teens and for the parents who okay their child to be on social media, what do you think teens can do to maintain a healthy balance when it comes to social media usage? And I want to start by asking you, Renita.
It's challenging. It's challenging to maintain a healthy balance on social media. It's challenging even for us as adults who just try to live just a regular life without having all of those things come into your feed. Things that you feel like I say toilet tissue, and next thing I know is toilet tissue in my feed, and I don't understand how it pops in my feed like that. But that's what happens to the kids. They look on the internet on their phone, they type in certain songs on YouTube, and it pops into their feed. It is so challenging to be able to keep our children safe. Even when we tell our children they have permission on social media sites, we also have to be mindful that our children are very crafty and they are able to create another page that you have no idea about, which is what we deal with mostly in schools, is the undercover pages that their parents don't know about, that they didn't give them consent to have. Those are the pages that, the Bonnie instead of Renita, that's who it is. Everybody know who they know Bonnie is really Renita, but the mama don't know that Bonnie even existed. So that's what happens. But it's a very challenging task to be able to shelter your child from all of these things. You can go into your child's phone and set every setting that you want to known to man, but if your child has access to their own phone, they can go back and change their settings. My grandson is 7 years old. He can take my phone and rewire it, reprogram it, do everything that change. He can bypass my doggone Face ID. How do you bypass my Face ID? I don't understand. So how can we actively 100% keep our children safe from all of the things that they have on their phone? I don't have an answer to that. I don't even want to tell a story to say that there is something that we can do to ensure. You can grab your child's phone every 5 seconds and just hope that they cleared it off what they just did, because otherwise you're going to see some things that you may not think are very appropriate. All you can do is talk to your child. Is when you think that they are being exposed to something, you really have to be able to have those uncut conversations. You have to be able to be willing and vulnerable to put yourself in a position to talk about very uncomfortable things. Talk about sexuality and talk about things that you maybe you didn't discuss that with your family when you were that age, but our children are dealing with this right now. And my 7-year-old grandson is asking questions that I would have never considered when I was 7 years old. But those are things that I have to discuss with him. And that's the only way I can help him is to educate him as best as I possibly can that his little 7-year-old brain or a 15-year-old brain or even a 20-year-old brain can handle. So that is truly my only advice.
That's good. Listen, we do have some people that are currently viewing this conversation, and I want you all to feel free to throw your questions in the chat. If you are liking this conversation, make sure you go ahead and give us a heart. But we want to bring out we want to bring this topic out. We want to bring awareness to bullying. And I have another question as well. And I think I want Trinity to kind of start with it, but I think that what steps are you guys what steps are you taking within your professional career to end bullying? I know you work with youth.
I think just having the conversation. I think bullying, like many things, has been around for years, but it's not talked about. You posed a question earlier about specific trainings as it relates to bullying. I've been in social service for over 10 years, and I can tell you I've never taken a specific training for bullying. In fact, it's often a topic that people are uncomfortable with because as adults, we experience it. So, how can we educate, support, and advocate for something we struggle with and we're not able to talk about? So I would say first and foremost, actually talking about it and making it a topic that is real, that is tangible, and that is exposed, and then developing content to educate children, parents, staff, anyone interacting with children and adults, educating them so they know how to recognize what bullying is and know how to support, follow up, and actually appropriately deal with it. So I'd say actually talking about it.
That's good. Dejanice, do the children that you work it with, do they interact with one another?
Not necessarily. So because of the dynamics of the work that I do, the kids don't necessarily interact with one another unless they're in the same homes. So they may not get bullying amongst the group of kids that I work with, unless they're siblings, and that does happen. Siblings bully each other. But they may be bullied at school, right? Our kids still lead fairly normal lives. So they get up and go to school every day. They go to therapy sessions. They go to they go and do all of these same things. So they're still experiencing it. And it is, I think we're probably in a different space in addressing it because they have to go through so many people before they get to me. Right. Most of the time, I have very little direct contact with the kids. People who call me are the parents, right? And so I get phone calls that say, hey, actually, just a couple days ago, my kid got beat up at school every day last week. And I'm like, well, this is the first I've heard about it. Let's figure out what's going on, right? Because we are part of that village, regardless of if people want us there or not. We're part of that village. So now we have to figure it out. But it looks a little bit different. We see it mostly from the school, or if we hear about like foster homes where the kids are feeling unsafe. So one of the important things for us is that it's mandatory for when our case managers go into the foster homes to visit their kids, that they talk to them separate from everybody else in the house. They don't need to talk to them in front of the foster parent or in front of whoever else lives in the house, because I need to get authentically from you that you feel safe in this home. And that is a question that should be asked every single time, even if the kid's tired of me asking about it, because kids will be like, Miss Dejanice, you asked me that last week. But it doesn't matter. In a week's time, you could go from safe to unsafe. So that we ask that question. We try to build individual rapport with our kids. I've taken kids outside of the home so that they are able to give me honest answers. And so that's how we kind of work with any of, not just bullying, just any form of safety concerns or risk concerns that our kids have.
Thank you. Thank you for providing insight. And Miss Felicia, I wanted to ask, I know you wear a lot of hats, and you also sit on a board district for one of the schools that is out in the South suburban area. What steps, are you guys even talking about steps to prevent bullying? Is bullying even a discussion on the table?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely. So I think that what has to happen, and this is just what I've seen when I have done the trainings. So some schools have brought me in to do the trainings in cyberbullying, and so I asked them, well, what have you done? Well, we have zero tolerance for bullying, and I was like, really? Okay. And then I walk through the school, and I'm like, but nothing in this school tells me that there's zero tolerance. So there's nothing on the wall, nothing in the bathroom, nothing nowhere. So I think if you're saying that you have zero tolerance for bullying, you have to actually show that you have zero tolerance. But then you also have to have policies and procedures in place too. So if it occurs, what are the consequences? And then I would also say for parents to empower themselves to know what the state requires the school to do if your child is being bullied. Because I know you guys have seen in the news about that case in Chicago where that kid was bullied, and then the kid was on life support and the child died. So she took all the steps by telling them nothing was done. So what does your state require your school to do if your child is bullying? So as a parent, you need to know those things. And so that's what I would just say, that if your school is saying that they have zero tolerance, where is it evident that there's zero tolerance? And if you speak up, like Ms. Streeter said, you tell people what are they doing, and what are the consequences. And as a board, we take it very serious. We've kicked kids out of school. We've talked to their parents and nothing changed. And we suggested that they go to a different learning environment because maybe our learning environment isn't appropriate for them. So those are the things that I would add.
Thank you. And Renita, I'm going to end with your question, and anybody can provide feedback. What can be done to make schools safer and more inclusive?
I can say that some of the things that we are doing in my building and within my district to make our schools safer is to really begin to really build upon your social emotional learning environment. Schools cannot simply only focus on academic instruction. We cannot access academics until we have the social emotional learning environment. If that is not a safe environment for our children to be able to breathe, inhale, and exhale literally in the space, emotionally and figuratively, then there is no learning. Kids need to be able to unpack their own emotions. When they come to school, we believe in having a check-in and a check-out session for all of our students in every classroom. And that's simply, hey, how was your night? What'd you have for breakfast this morning? What you do with your family last night? Did you eat popcorn? Whatever it is. And the kids, they're long-winded and they want to tell all these stories, but that helps them just unpack, helps them take off their own emotional coat and their emotional cloudedness that they've come to school with, so they can take that off. And then we also have, we have two programs in our school. One program is called Second Step. Another program is called Character Strong. That's for the older students. But these are programs that really help to teach the students. It focuses more on character education, but it's still teaching the students tenets of what it means to be a valuable member of society. It's helping still children to understand what empathy is and things of that nature, to understand what it means to care and support other students. Then on top of that, another step is when students show signs of any type of behavior that is a true disruption to the classroom. Oftentimes, after you have addressed that situation, hopefully one-on-one with that student outside the classroom, then you want to come back and have a learning opportunity with the whole class. There are so many things that you can do to address those issues, because it's usually not just that one student who was impacted by it. The other students in the classroom heard it. They felt it. So how does the teacher respond to that? Oh, okay. So that gives me some ideas on what I can do moving forward. Additionally, we also need to utilize all of our resources. So we have social workers, we have speech pathologists, we have school counselors. We have so many people that are available, and school psychologists who are available to support our students. We need to be utilizing them for mediations, for restorative circles, for grief group depression. So many different types of groups that they can run with their students in order to do that. My assistant principal has a lunch group every single solitary day, where she literally has to work with the students during their lunch period to help them make positive decisions. These are so many resources that we can tap into in the school in order to keep our students safe. And if I can go back to one very small thing, because I told a fib and I said that I have never participated in a bullying training, and then it pops in my head like, yes, I have. I couldn't even start the school year without doing the GCNs for the bullying training. So yes, I have. So please forgive me, Superintendent, if you're watching, that I said that I didn't, because I have. And it popped in my head like, that is not true. Anyway, but I just had to throw that out there. But those are some of the things that we offer in our school. We do so many more girls groups and boys groups and all types of things that we provide for after school intervention and for support. And then, of course, another thing that we do is, even when we have students who are really struggling, we also have to counsel the parents. we can have restorative groups with the parents and the children, sometimes of different families, in order to bring it back home. Because if there's no real borderline between home and school, then the connection is kind of lost.
That is good. We are right at 8 o'clock, ladies, and I want to go ahead and wrap this conversation up. But again, I hope that our viewers was able to take away some nuggets. We've gotten great feedback in the chat as it relates to this discussion. If you would like to hear more, if you would like to, you have questions directly for one of our panelists, definitely feel free to send those over to us. You can send that to us via email. You can also inbox Mean Girls Empowerment. We'll get that over to our panelists. Again, this month is National Bullying Prevention Month. Our organization is raising funds for our girls as it relates to programming. And we're wanting to provide curriculum for our girls that would allow them the opportunity to be more engaging with their peers, and also providing them field trips to expose them into more social settings. So you can go to our website to make a donation. Our website is meangirlsempowerment.org. Again, that's meangirlsempowerment.org. I want to thank each of you again for being here with me. Thank you for helping with this topic. Continue to take a stand. Let's continue to bring awareness to this topic. Trust me, you will see their faces again. Mean Girls have a lot of things planned. So if you have any questions or concerns, definitely reach out to us. I want to say good night to everyone. I see in the chat that everyone's saying great job, great conversation, very informative. So again, thank you, ladies. And we're going to go ahead and end this live. And have a great night.